No, I don't want to. I'm going home. These were possibly some of the last words 14-year-old Kristen Jackson ever got to say to her family before storming away from the Wayne County Fair on September 9th of 2002, before she was abducted, raped, and murdered by an ex-convict so haunted by his demons that he had no choice but to act.
Yeah. Oh, dang. Boy, that is an intro and a half.
Kidding. She's a short one, but she drove a punch.
She really did. Welcome to Glen and Friends. This is episode 4, guys.
Holy cow. We're almost halfway to 10.
Yeah, we're...
Numbers.
I'm mad. I'm good.
We're getting close to halfway through season 1 of Glen and Friends, our podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening to our podcast as we are getting things going. We're having a fun time figuring things out as we go along.
Baby steps,
you know. But we're having a good time, and we're excited that you are tuning in for today's episode. Make sure to check out our social media. We always post some fun stuff up there when we post our episodes, whether it be on TikTok, Instagram, or Twitter. So make sure to go and follow those socials and follow our YouTube page. We always post the episode on there as well. If you're listening on YouTube, comment down below. But yeah, without further ado, do we want to jump in?
Sure.
Take it away.
Let's get into it. Okay. So this week, we're taking a little trip to my hometown, where I was born and raised and have continued to live for literally my entire life. Wayne County, Ohio, and more specifically Wooster, Ohio, is where quite a bit of our story takes place. Really quick, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the man who Joel Yockey was prior to the specific case we'll be getting into today. Okay, so Mr. Yockey, 46, Wooster, Ohio, he was a freaking loser. Like, for lack of a better term, he was a loser. Like, I'm not saying living with your parents is a bad thing, but when you're 46 years old...
46?!
And you live with your parents...
Yikes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rough.
Anyway, before the instance at the fair that I'm going to get into, he admitted multiple times that he would, quote-unquote, talk dirty to young girls and scare them. And had also admitted that he, quote-unquote, lived to prey on adolescent girls.
Oh my word.
Which is so hecking icky.
Yeah.
What, did his parents have anything to say about that?
I don't know who his parents were, but they just say that he lived with his parents. Damn. So that's all I know about that part. Anyway, state records show that he allegedly picked up young girls 4 or 5 times and had thought about raping them before, finally, in 1986, he beat and raped a 17-year-old in a field, and get this, he said, in his own words, he went, quote-unquote, wacko.
Oh.
That's, I guess.
What?
He went wacko.
What the heck?
That was his word for it. Like, yeah, clearly.
What is this? Oh my
God. And records show that this 46-year-old weenie head clearly had trouble with female relationships, as his 3 past marriages had all ended in divorce after he physically beat each of them.
Who in the world would marry this man?
That is
heck if I know.
Really sad.
Gosh dang it.
His backstory, it really goes on and on. Like, it's seriously such like a villain type backstory. It's horrible. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, now that you know like a little bit about who Joel is, let's get straight up into this case.
Good.
Good.
The shrink is ready to throw down.
Really do.
Like, let's go. Okay. As a little bit of a preface, the Wayne County Fair that is held every year around like early to mid-September is one of the largest, if not the largest, agricultural fair that happens in Ohio every year. So you can imagine the vibe we're working with here. Like, there's a bunch of people, loud noises, intense smells, etc., etc. It's a county fair. 14-year-old Kristen Jackson was at the fair on the evening of September 9th, 2002, having a great time with her friends and her family, you know, as one does. But then when her parents decided they wanted to do something that she didn't necessarily want to do, and as an angsty teenager, Kristen stormed off in this fit of rage. At this time, she left the fairgrounds and began the walk back to her home. Unfortunately for her, though, Mr. Yockey just happened to be moseying by in his car. He saw Kristen walking alone and offered her a ride home, although she would never make it back.
Oh, man.
Mr. Yockey, after abducting her, he raped, strangled, and then cut her body into pieces, burying the various parts in a swamp. He dumped her torso off near a rural road while he was disposing of all the other pieces, and then he retrieved the torso and put it with the rest. I'm not sure why he did it that way, but that was a detail that they included in the article. So he put the torso on like the side of the road, dumped the rest of the body parts, and went back to get the torso. And
Why? That's so strange.
It's so particular.
That's very specific.
Now, while I'm not exactly sure of how he was caught or who all got involved in the investigation precisely, I can say that Yockey recounted to the police that the voices in his head ordered him to, quote-unquote, kill her, hurt her. She's not dead yet. She's not dead yet. Get rid of the body.
Whoa.
So
I hate that so much.
As the shrink, I'm going to say maybe this man, because of like the hallucinations, the voices, the everything leading up to this,
Schizo?
He's definitely schizo.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that he's not.
100%.
And if I'm wrong, I guess come for me. So as part of the plea agreement with prosecutors, Yockey spoke at length with detectives and FBI agents. Like the FBI got involved in this.
Well, I would.
Yeah.
I mean,
and FBI agents in December of 2002 about he had kidnapped and killed Kristen Jackson minutes after she'd left the Wayne County Fair.
minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow! Was he stalking her, or did he just?
I think it was
wrong
just
place,
like
wrong time.
he
for
was
Kristen.
driving around, saw Kristen walking by herself, and was like, okay.
No.
Yeah. His plea would then spare him the death penalty, and he was sentenced to life in prison. Yeah. He has since died at the age of 50 due to a massive infection in his abdomen and his blood that was caused by a torn bowel, which was caused by pancreatitis.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio prison officials were partly to blame. As Dr. William A. Cox said, quote unquote, he was subjected to a very painful death, and the lack of early health care certainly contributed to his death.
Interesting.
Dang.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's all I have written out. But questions, concerns, comments.
There are so much.
There's so much
to talk about with this case. So Kristen is his only known murder?
Well, here's the thing. Back in where is it? Where did I put it?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, because he said obviously he's a serial rapist.
Yes.
And he's done he said some horrible things. He's done some horrible things. But then my question is like, is this his only killing?
So here's the thing. In the intro, I said he was an ex-con.
Right.
So he had been in prison before for like serial rape charges, and when he was 46, he had admitted struggling with stress and frustration for weeks, and then he had been released from prison in March after serving 15 years for the raping of that 17-year-old girl.
So,
wow.
So he had just abducted those girls in the past, but then I think like the physical abuse and assault and rape of the 17-year-old is what landed him in prison.
So he was an ex-con when he attacked Kristen.
Right.
Okay.
Wow.
So he's this 46-year-old guy, and he lost his job delivering newspapers and was forced to go into construction. So he's having a little bit of a hard time with that.
Apparently.
Well, Okay, so it says here that Kristen initially refused the ride, but then relented, talking freely about an argument she had had with her sister.
No.
Yockey had promised to drive her home, and instead he drove to a rural access road. And when the girl realized Yockey wasn't taking her home, she became frightened. He grabbed her by the hair and told her to shut up. He parked and ordered Kristen to take off her clothes. She panicked and told him that her parents loved her and would pay anything if he returned her unharmed. But he demanded again and put his arms around her. "What are you doing?" she asked. "What are you doing?" You know, as you should.
Yeah, right.
You, like, fight for your life. Come on now. Yockey then began hearing the voices telling him to rape the girl, hurt her, kill her. And at this point, Yockey told the authorities that he was, quote-unquote, totally out of control.
Oh my gosh.
He raped Kristen and tried to snap her neck with his right hand. The girl's 5'6", 130-pound body appeared stunned, and she pinched at Yockey's arm. He grabbed a vinyl string from his Jeep and strangled her. Yockey said the voices told him to get rid of the body. He put Kristen's body in his Jeep and went home, and at 11:45 p.m., his parents left their home to deliver papers, and he grabbed a mattock, a large shovel-like tool similar to a pickaxe, I guess, and drove to Killbuck Marsh Preserve, which I know exactly where that is. So I'm just like cringing.
It really hits
inwardly,
different when you know where it is.
I know exactly where all these places are, and I was 3 years old at the time this happened.
Oh, so this was 2002. This was not 1986.
No, this is like all the Kristen case.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Killbuck Marsh Preserve is like the state-owned marshland south of Wooster, and I think that's why they found her body so quickly, is because it's being patrolled by like rangers and
All the
police
time.
and
Right.
all that stuff.
And like affairs going on right there. So like
right.
there's
There's a little bit of a drive
Yeah.
between the two, so at least he wasn't so stupid as to
just leave it
to just
there.
leave the body.
But you'd have to imagine the amount of law enforcement that were active at that time.
Right. Like
would have
there
been-
would have definitely been police at the fair.
for sure.
Yeah.
Because they always have a booth. It's very clear like where they are the whole time if you have a problem. But anyway, he took the girl's body apart and spread it in different swampy fields to avoid detection.
Oh
Clearly,
my
it didn't work.
gosh.
He also took apart the mattock and pitched it into different fields. When he was finished, he drove the Jeep to a car wash at 2 a.m. and sprayed it inside and out. When he got home, he took a shower and he washed his clothes. He tried to sleep, but simply tossed and turned. He went to work the next day, and then he returned home to find his mother holding a flyer with Kristen's picture on it. And instead of feeling fear, Yockey went numb. And an hour later, he took a shovel out of his garage to bury the body parts he had tossed in the marsh. He returned to his parents' home with blood splattered on his shirt. This time he didn't care.
So they saw it.
Yeah. He said, "I knew I was going to get caught." And then within days, sheriff's detectives and the FBI were at his house. Understandably.
Yeah.
He was the closest convicted rapist to Kristen's home, and investigators started there. So, like, they had the list, because, they have, like, that public domain where you can see, like,
Yeah.
sexual offenders and everything.
Right.
And I guess he was the closest, and
Process of elimination.
by process of elimination, he was the closest, and, a police cadaver dog, which, they pick up blood and tissue scents and stuff, began barking when it got near the Jeep. Yockey even admitted he had gone to the fair, a violation of his parole.
Right.
So there's that, too. And detectives found a SeaWorld penny belonging to Kristen in the vehicle.
No.
Like a little pressed penny.
That's so sad.
Investigators found the girl's head and limbs just weeks after the slaying. And then 3 weeks ago, when this article was written, like 3 weeks prior, Yockey told his defense attorney where to find her torso. In the interview Saturday, he told the authorities he abducted Kristen as a power control and not as an act of sex, though he has long fantasized about sex with young girls. Yockey admitted he approached 3 girls at a McDonald's in Wooster the night before he picked up Kristen, and those girls refused to ride.
Good.
Good.
Good girls.
Yockey said his problems in life began in 1st grade when a teacher smacked him with a yardstick because he was left-handed and yelled at his every mistake. When the woman became pregnant, Yockey drew a picture of her child being eaten by a snake
What?
and showed it to her.
Oh my word! This kid is another kind of messed up.
100%.
He said he began hearing voices when he was 13 and accidentally rubbed against one of his sister's friends. And the voice apparently told him to do it again.
Oh.
No.
For crying out loud. I'm sorry. I get annoyed when I hear criminals say this type of stuff. Like, yes, they can definitely be schizophrenic, but it seems like such a stupid, like, justification. Like, the voices told me to do it.
Exactly.
And if I'm remembering correctly, Son of Sam originally said the same thing, and then they realized he's actually not crazy. He was just coming up with this stuff to make it seem as if he was crazy to get
make
a
a
lighter
plea.
sentence.
Yeah.
And
That's the
I hate
thing.
it when that happens.
Yeah, because, like, there's no way, like, without a psychiatric evaluation of, like, his entire life,
Yeah.
like, there's no way for I mean, even with the psychiatric evaluation, like, there's no way that you can know, like, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no way.
Like, obviously, part of schizophrenia is, like, the voices and the hallucinations and everything, but, like, if he's lying about it just so he can, like, not get off clean, but, like,
Yeah, get a lighter
get off
sentence.
easier.
Yeah.
As he gave his weekend statement, Yockey said he was sorry for what happened to Kristen. He also said apologizing wasn't enough for what he had done.
No doubt.
Why'd you do it, pal?
Yeah.
Why'd you do it?
Why?
To Kristen's father, Mark Jackson, Yockey's words are meaningless. He said his daughter did not go willingly with Yockey. And then Mark Jackson said, I have a hard time believing anything that could come from that man's mouth.
Yeah.
I'll know the
Rightfully
truth
so.
the day I see Kristen again, and that's a day that I'm really looking forward to.
I think I kind of believe the dad. I feel like I side with him that it seems highly unlikely, especially it being the year 2002, that a girl would get in a car with a
stranger.
creepy old man.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't buy that.
Nope.
I don't buy that.
I definitely feel
No,
like
ma'am.
he saw Kristen walking, was like, hey, do you need a ride? She said no,
Yeah.
but then he didn't like that, so he just
Took her.
took her.
Yeah.
I don't believe a word that man said.
No.
I don't either. I don't either.
I'm not sure if I believe him about the schizophrenia stuff. I'm not sure if I don't believe him about the saying that she agreed to get in this car with him. But I'm more likely to believe the schizophrenia. But I still feel really kind of itchy inside about that because
Yeah.
it's just, as humans, we want an answer for the
Everything.
crimes that we see,
Yep.
and just to answer it with that they're insane, it's so unsatisfying.
Yeah.
And there's so little closure in that.
Yep.
Like, I get that mental illness in a lot of these cases is very prevalent.
Yeah.
However, some of the things he said just how is that not pure evil? Like some of the things he's saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Like-
Especially if he's lying.
Yeah.
Right.
Then it's definitely pure evil.
Because
Oh,
things
yeah.
like this, when, like, we don't know whether or not he's lying, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, when people lie about their mental illness, that's where a lot of the stigma comes from. And
Right.
it's like, oh, well, if you're that way, then, like, I'm not going to believe you. Or
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think another issue is with serial killers, we often confuse it with mental illness.
Right.
When really it's just the fact that they're psychopathic.
Right.
And they, at some point, yes, they could be acting in a way that is schizophrenic or something like that, but for the most part, it's just the psychopath within them that leads them to their lack of empathy and
Exactly.
their want and desire to lie, to cover it up, and to make themselves look better to the public eye. That's what Ted Bundy did. And so, you know, you're seeing the fight between these two things where you want to be like, he's a psychopath. He's just so obsessed with himself that he will do whatever he can to make himself look better.
Right.
Whereas he's a schizophrenic and he truly is insane and out of his mind. And
Exactly.
You know, it's hard.
Also,
it's hard.
not all schizophrenics kill people.
Exactly.
So, like,
exactly.
the fact that, and the fact that people have been using mental health in these cases, not as an excuse, but as a justification for their actions is absurd to me. Because mental health it encompasses everybody. It's a human issue.
Because, okay, for other instances of schizophrenia, like, for one class, we watched this, like, part of a documentary on people who had schizophrenia. And, like, some of these people who I fully believe, like, obviously they had, like, a complete diagnosis and everything, it was debilitating. Like, they couldn't leave their house.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the fact that he is claiming to hear voices and see things and everything, it's just, and the fact that he can go out and do things while hearing these voices is just...
Yeah. And ultimately, you know, we know that there are people with schizophrenia that are still able to live in society.
Right.
And
medication is a great thing.
Medication is a great thing, that is true. But also, we do have to realize that there is still a choice being made.
Yep.
And even if someone is being deceived in some way by hallucinations or voices, there's still a choice being made there.
Yep.
And that choice for him was to rape and kill. And that's horrifying. That's totally horrifying.
It's so horrifying. And I'm sitting here reading this, like, objectively, but, like, when I take a step back and, like, I look at this case, like, it itches me on the inside because this is where I grew up. I remember when I got a little bit older, my mom, whenever I would get mad at her, like, at the fair when I didn't get what I wanted, or, like, I couldn't go get the food that I wanted, I'd be like, why can't I just go do it, blah, blah, blah. But then, like, later she would say, well, you remember what happened to that one girl who stormed away from her family, like, you don't want to get taken. And I'm like, no, I don't want to get taken.
You don't want to get taken.
Yeah. It's almost a, you know, it's, my heart hurts for Kristen and her family, but it's also a cautionary tale.
It really is.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's so sad. It's so sad because the last thing that they got to say to her was not a happy thing. And it's just, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's really heartbreaking.
It notes the argument with her sister, but there have been, like, just, like, stories around town where it's like she was with her whole family, or, like, she was just with her sister, or she was hanging out with her friends. And so there's, like, all these mixed, like there's this mixed bag of, like, what actually happened
as far as who she was with and what actually happened. Either way, it is so sad to see, you know, an innocent life taken out of this world in such a horrible way.
Oh yeah.
And for her body to be dismembered and destroyed, and, you know, that's really, really sad.
That's the thing that gets me too. Like, it's one thing to kill someone, but it's another thing to take apart a human body and chuck it in a swamp.
What is it with these, like, killers from our hometowns that like to dismember people?
Right? Mine didn't.
Yeah, yours didn't do that, but still, something about it is, I don't know if it's like modern crime drama that has caused dismembering to be a thing, where they think that if they dismember, that's somehow going to protect them from ever getting found.
I don't know, because they were doing it in the 70s before this. And before then, you know, like, think about the woman, I think it was in the 1800s, she cut up people and turned them into soap.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so scary. And I kind of wonder, and that's a good, like, example of what I'm trying to say is, I wonder sometimes if it's the process of doing that brings some sort of, like, oh, I'm productive about how I did this. Like, I cut them up and everything, and then I hid it, or I dumped it, instead of just, I don't know, it takes some level of, not motive, but, like, intent.
Definitely motive.
You know, to cut someone up. Like, that's a very specific thing to do.
Right. That's a part of someone's, oftentimes someone's modus operandi, where that's how they choose to kill.
Right.
They're not just going to kill, they're going to dismember afterwards.
Exactly. And it just is, yeah. I feel like it takes a very specific person with this type of problem
Yeah.
to be able to go that far.
Yeah. Well, and because you also have to ask yourselves, when you're discussing a case like this, you go back to, like, Jack the Ripper in the 1800s. He's disfiguring people, maiming people. But he clearly did it with the intent to disfigure, not to hide it. But he wanted to show that he was viciously attacking these women.
It's like a show.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a show.
I'm showing off.
Performance. Yeah.
Right.
Whereas, like, haha, look what I can do, and you can't catch me.
Right.
Suckers.
He definitely, I mean, he was sending literal mail to the officers because of that. But also with Matthew J. Hoffman and Joel Yockey, I think for them it's less of this idea of they wanted to do this, but more they're trying to hide what they did. And so to them the best thought of hiding it was to dismember, so it's easier to kind of
Spread
the bodies. Yeah, like hide the body. So that's scary stuff. I don't like it.
I don't either.
And people in Wooster, like, they still talk about it, and it's been,
I bet.
it's been 19 years, so.
That's crazy. Yeah. Well,
that was that fun tale.
That's that fun case. That's pretty heavy stuff.
It's really heavy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really heavy stuff. And, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's really no words to describe, but yeah, it's heavy stuff, and it's hard to talk about, but these are definitely interesting cases, interesting characters to try and understand. And I think the schizophrenia question is probably going to be the one that I think about the most. Was he actually schizophrenic, or was he lying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lame excuse for him to come up with. Honest, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I feel like that was an excuse on their part to justify his actions.
Yeah,
right.
He used a mental illness to justify what he did. Right. And like I said, again, he chose to do these things. He chose to act upon his voices, as he says, to do these things. And so that is, there's still an amount of guilt there that needs to be laid at his feet. And it was. He was convicted, and he was sent to prison again.
It was also interesting to me how he tried to hide it at first, like he washed his car inside and out, but then his mom found, what did she find? She found, like, something with blood on it or something.
Well, his shirt had blood on it when he came back.
Yeah, and she was like, pardon me?
And now
he's like, well, I guess I'm caught.
Guess it's over.
Which is like,
jig's up.
You went so far to hide this, and then you just came back with blood on your shirt?
Yeah.
Like,
it's like he's proud of it.
Yeah, it literally is. He's like, I'm gonna show this off, It's not like he was secretive. He wasn't.
No.
So it's just crazy. It's crazy to me.
Yeah. The details of this case are really, really interesting, and I think if you took the time to, like, dive deeper into case files, interviews, all sorts of things, you could probably really start to kind of come up with the mind of Joel Yockey. And
I'm not even sure I want to pick into this mind.
Probably, I mean, that's for the FBI to do, but, they can do their own thing. Anyways, thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I will be presenting next week, and I will be talking about crime that you probably never even thought about before. Crime that actually takes place, ritualistic crime that took place very near my home. I grew up in Zambia, Africa, and it's scary stuff.
I'm so excited.
I am pumped.
I'm pumped.
You have no idea.
Yeah. It was, you want to talk about, like, a Nightcrawler Reign of Terror type thing for the neighborhood that I lived in? This was that.
Oh, Lord.
I'm so
excited for this case.
Yeah, it is very sizzling stuff. So you won't want to miss out on that episode. But as for right now, we are